Sonic the Hedgehog is one of the most beloved and storied franchises in all of gaming. From a plethora of games to fan-made creations and even TV shows and cartoons, and now movies, Sonic the Hedgehog as a character is one of the most well-known and respected gaming icons, despite the fact that a lot of his games have been rather polarizing or controversial in nature. Back in the glory days of the early Sega consoles, where Sonic the Hedgehog was competing with Mario for the face of gaming, Sonic was an IP and an entity that was capable of selling consoles himself. And then a progressive move to 3D-oriented games, Sega consoles being a thing of the past, and Sonic's games got a bit polarizing. People just didn't like a lot of the new styles or a lot of the interpretations. Sonic would always retain a core hardcore fan base of players actively a fan of that gotta go fast mentality, going for higher leaderboards, better times, or going for those S ranks, those juicy S ranks. And even the most polarizing games in the series will have its ardent defenders. And occasionally throughout my life, I would dip my toe into the franchise one way or the other, namely with two main games, Shadow the Hedgehog and Sonic Unleashed. I would never beat either game, but the charm of the world and just the characters did gravitate and kind of resonate for me for at least a little bit, but not enough to get me fully invested in the franchise. For most of my life, Sonic the Hedgehog was simply a series and largely an IP that eluded me for one reason or the other. And then later in life, one of the biggest reasons I kind of always never really gave Sonic the time of day was I just didn't like the aesthetic, or namely the character designs. Just wasn't a thing that really clicked with me personally. Not saying they're bad, just not, it's a personal preference. But as I started to make more and more content on YouTube and stream more, I realized I had an audience with quite a few people that was Sonic fans. And with the smash success of Sonic Frontiers, the good vibes and goodwill about Sega but also Sonic really started to skyrocket. And I wanted to see what all the hype was about. So I put my preconceptions aside for the moment and decided, you know what, I'm gonna put an honest effort in to try and play these games. And I absolutely sucked at them. You see, I have been able to play Sonic 2 on the Switch, and I technically managed to beat it, but I had to manipulate save states and all that and absolutely abuse the hell out of that, so I don't really quantify that as a tried and true successful playthrough, but I've seen most of what that game has on offer, and yeah, back in the day I can understand why Sonic gravitated so many people towards it. It's fun, varied, and incentivizes multiple playthroughs in an interesting and fun way. It's not just platforming, there's also nice little challenges that you can conquer and get better at over time to acquire the Chaos Emeralds. Acquire all of them, and you can unlock Super Sonic. A really cool, hyped up, powerful form to reward all that time and effort you put into learning the game and getting better at it. It's a completionist reward and something that a lot of modern games kind of lack. But Sonic the Hedgehog, at least to my understanding, has largely been able to nail this idea. And I'll eventually make a return to 2D Sonic with Mania, which I have played a little bit before in the past, but one of the main things I learned from 2D Sonic is a lot of the game seemingly stems from understanding the maps and replaying them so many times because of the nature of the fail states in the game that you learn these maps and the various routes like the back of your hand. And once you know the obstacles, you know the timings. And once you know the timings, the more and more you play and the more and more you get better at Sonic, the more cinematic and expert you look in comparison to someone just starting out. While yes, the game may have a timer, it gives you enough time to stop and smell the roses and check out different routes and try and find what secrets these maps have on offer for you. And one of the things that really gravitated me towards Sonic 2 in particular was just how inspired the map design was, and how each new zone had its own feel and character to it. It had its own sense of personality that oozed from every orifice and pore to make each level and stage feel distinct, unique, and incentivizing to explore. Whether it's a casino or ancient ruins or underwater mechanics, with that god's-forsaken sound that resonates in your ear, wakes you up in the middle of the night in a cold sweat, fearing that you need to find some oxygen, quickly, post-haste. And 2D Sonic became a thing that I did kind of enjoy, and that at some point in the future, when I get more into Sonic, I would like to return to and get better at. But Sonic would not really click for me until I returned to Sonic Unleashed. Sonic Unleashed is arguably one of the most, if not the most polarizing entry in the entire Sonic IP, for a very simple reason: the night stages. See, Sonic Unleashed is so polarizing because there's two gameplay modes in it. regular daytime stages where you play as Sonic, running as fast as you can through various obstacles, going for the sweet S ranks, grabbing rings and all that. It's the good stuff, right? Maps are varied, cool, inspired, and just draw you in and refuse to let go. But Sonic Unleashed's main gimmick is that at nighttime, Sonic transforms into the Werehog. A name that makes less and less sense the more you think about it, but it is kind of cool. You get stretchy arms, and the game turns into an action combo-oriented experience instead of it being a speedrunner paradise. The game has various stats you can level up by acquiring XP through both day and night stages, to rank up various Sonic skills, to unlock more combos, hit more damage, have more health, be faster in day stages, or to have more ring energy in day stages, or whatever. The combo system is surprisingly complex and varied, and once you learn how to manipulate them and utilize them effectively, you can bypass certain obstacles simply because of the airtime you can get with certain combos, and that's really cool to me. Sure, there may be an objective intended way for you to progress this level, but if you understand the kit and the tools at your disposal well enough, you can manipulate those aspects to your advantage to bypass certain obstacles. I like that, even though sometimes I may spend 30 minutes on stream trying to make one jump because I get really stubborn. And the reason the night stages are kind of polarizing is because they slow the pace of the game down so drastically to where it doesn't even feel like a Sonic game to begin with. Sonic games are known for their speed. They're known for being fast-paced, running through various maps, getting faster and faster the more you go. Whereas the night stages, you're kind of just like trotting along in a jog, if that, kicking on waves of monsters, doing some rudimentary platforming, and Bob's your uncle. But I gotta be honest, as someone who did play a little bit of Unleashed back in the day, and getting back into Unleashed as my first big return, or try as debut into 3D Sonic, I don't mind the night stages. They vary up the experience enough to where they give me something new to think about and to play and plan around. I prefer the day stages, don't get me wrong, but I'm not like completely put off because of the night stages. And every now and then you'll be able to get a hint or a glimpse of what the day stage and those varied obstacles will look like through the night stages. So in night stages, you may get more nitty-gritty detail as to these environments and these surroundings, whereas in the day stages, you're able to manipulate and utilize all that you just learned in the night stage as you blare through it at supersonic speeds, get it? Seeing everything you just explored go by super fast. Or the reverse can be true, where you see something and then go explore in the night stage. It's an interesting synergy that helps me like gravitate towards these locations and zones. And I'll be the first to say, I sucked at Sonic Unleashed, and I still arguably do. There's a lot of mechanics that can feel intuitive and understandable for a Sonic veteran, but if you're just starting out like I did, I had to learn everything. Where does the game want me to aim my left stick at? When do I want the boost? I had to learn the mechanics for the boost in the game because it's also hotkeyed to the same button as your homing attack, which can create some messy controls here and there. Sonic as a character in the day stages is also extremely floaty, so you have to learn the movement kit in the game to learn how to manipulate that movement to your advantage on a moment-to-moment basis. I'm not necessarily opposed to that, I'm just saying there's a learning curve there that I had to learn, and I'm still learning for. But one of the beautiful things about Sonic the Hedgehog, in my opinion, is the more you play and the more you get better, you feel and you can see that skill translate into cleaner runs, faster runs, and more sustained efforts. Maybe you start off on a day stage and you just trip up on damn near every obstacle you find. You feel like a POS and question your very skills as a gamer. Run the map a few more times though, and you start to learn the tricks. You start to learn the traps and the different routes and what may be optimal and the timings. And the more and more that clicks, all of a sudden you start to look better and better. And progressively it feels like each day stage, the more and more you go into Sonic Unleashed, is trying to teach you in a passive or intrinsic way the various tools at your disposal and how to manipulate them and utilize them effectively. Okay, brief aside real quick, I have to say it, whoever paired the homing attack and the boost button onto the same button for this game, I hope you stub your toe on a Lego piece for at least 3 days in a row. The amount of times I intend to try and boost past an objective, but Sonic home attacks directly downwards or in a different direction and messes my entire flow up is way too many times when that should just never happen. The very first day stage, arguably the tutorial, is teaching you how to boost, and how to homing attack and how to do so effectively, while also giving you pitfalls so you can feel the failure state if you miss a boost, or a homing attack. You have to get it right. And if you want an S rank on that stage, you have to learn how to boost and how to homing attack effectively and learn the timings. So I grinded, and eventually I managed to get an S rank on that first tutorial stage. It's an extremely easy stage, and for Sonic that's getting an S rank there may not be much, but for a new player like myself, it was a sign, at least to me, that I am learning how to play this game. So I then moved on to the next Greece day stage, because in Sonic Unleashed, the locations are kind of based off of real-world locations, so I just call them what they're clearly based off of, instead of their in-game name. So Greece has 2 day stages, the first one the tutorial, and then you have about a 2.5-minute one for like Act 2, and I decided that first S rank wasn't enough. I wanted a second. So I set out to grind that second S rank. I had to learn to control Sonic in either the 3-lane idea or by using the left stick to try and get as many rings as possible so I can get more and more speed to do the level even faster. I utilized the information the game taught me naturally beforehand as a basis for what I would have to learn for this stage. And then after a little bit, that second S rank came home. And I haven't beaten Sonic Unleashed yet, and I haven't got my 3rd S rank yet. But those will come. And I think one of the things that has really grabbed me in regards to Sonic is the ranking and the day stages. They are truly really fun, and the way the game rewards you for getting better by making the game feel more smooth but also more fun and interesting is something that really resonates with me. And those prior preconceptions that I had about the aesthetic of Sonic the Hedgehog and the character design kind of went out the window after the first cutscene, as simply how fun and lovable the game and characters kind of are just gravitated, or just kind of minimized a lot of those preconceptions and concerns, to where I didn't particularly care about them anymore. And then Sonic Unleashed went from a game that I wanted to play every Sunday or so on stream and that's it, to a game I actively started to grind off stream just to get those S ranks because that's simply something I wanted to do. And honestly, I'm falling in love all over again with Sonic Unleashed. I think the biggest killer the game can possibly have is requiring certain amounts of, like, Sudden Moon coins to progress the game. I've already had to go back and grind quite a bit to get Sun coins to do the Chunan day stage, which is based on China, I believe, which was a really cool day stage, by the way. But I know you need a lot of these coins, and they're not optional, they are mandatory. But I feel like if the game had just made them optional to acquire, like, more XP or something, or to even unlock, like, bonus side stages or whatever, and not lock the main story behind them, the game would be way better received in that regard. But coulda, shoulda, woulda, it's not. So I think for me, if the game will have an Achilles heel, it will be that one aspect to it. But where I may break away from a lot of the common trends and ideas about Sonic Unleashed is that my main critiques of the game so far have not been the night stages. They're not my favorite, but they don't put me off the game either, and they're fun every now and then. Maybe it's because I'm a big fan of action games kind of like that, but I didn't mind it. I think the boss fights so far have been largely inoffensive, nothing that really dragged out all that long, and they bring some interesting visuals to the playing field, so they're not going to be one of my highlights, but they're not going to be like one of the biggest weak points of all time either. I feel like what I really love and adore about Sonic Unleashed so far, and what makes me so excited for like the other 3D Sonic games, is just that speed and that feeling of getting better, of just sitting down, looking at a singular level, and going, okay, I want to learn this level, and I want to get better and better. Maybe your first run in that level is a C or a B or even a D rank, and then as you grind it out and you get better and better, you see those ranks get higher and higher, until eventually you may break through with an S rank, and you feel like you accomplished something. And that feeling of being accomplished in the video game is really fun, and something that's going to really drive this series home for me, and makes me want to play more and more of them. Once I beat Sonic Unleashed, I want to do Sonic Frontiers. I've played the demo on the Switch before, I have the game on Steam. I've heard pretty much 99% of the things I've heard about Sonic Frontiers are strictly positive. And the game looked really fun, and god damn, the music's so good. Yeah, that's another thing with Sonic, by the way. The music is outstanding. I think Sega, and from everything that I've followed recently, Sega and Sonic as a franchise and as an IP are doing a lot to generate goodwill with its player base and also attract new players to it as well. If they are able to keep up this trend, I think we could see a massive return to Sonic as an IP and as a mainstay in the gaming kind of culture as well. I think it's fair to say that the 2010s were largely rough for Sonic as an IP, and even the late 2000s. It was a series of ups and downs, turns and twists, zigs and zags. But I, for one, am excited to play more and more Sonic, and that's more than I could say than where I thought I would be at this point in time. I never thought Sonic would gravitate me, or grab my attention. I never thought it would grab my attention like it has. But it is genuinely fun. So yeah, those are my first impressions with Sonic the Hedgehog as an IP. I'll eventually get the Sonic Forces, and I know that game's gonna be bad, because everyone I hear talk about that game says it's bad. I want to give it a fair shake myself, though. I mean, character create is an interesting concept. I've heard it's really short, but I have a bunch of other Sonic games now that we can just, dive into. So yeah, Sonic's pretty good, huh? Gotta go fast. And with that, I'll call the video there for the day. Thank you all for tuning in. My pleasure for making the video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out and help support future content, and I greatly appreciate it. And leave a comment down below with what your first Sonic game ever was, and what your favorite Sonic game is. I would love to hear your thoughts, and to hear your stories, and to hear your perspectives. Stay safe, have a great day, I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye, everybody, until we meet again.